everyone, I'm DiTomaso, and I've been helping content creators turn GA4 from a confusing mishmash of metrics into a reliable reporting tool for years. Today, I'm going to help you go beyond the basics to transform how you make content decisions. Think of GA4 as your content compass. Just like a navigator would use multiple readings to chart the best course, we'll use multiple GA4 signals to confidently answer the question, what content should we create next, without losing your soul in the process. First, we'll start with true resonance. This is moving beyond vanity metrics to engagement that actually matters. Many marketers will look at page view metrics and they'll see what's popular, then they say to themselves, okay, well, that's what's popular, let's do more of that. But page views are really only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to evaluating the success of your content and if it's connecting with your visitors. GA4 gives us some deeper content metrics we can use. They're not usually in the default report, so people don't know they're there, but they do exist, and we can use these deeper content metrics to determine actual content resonance. There's 3 levels to resonance that we're going to consider today. The first level is attention. Did they click and did they stay? The second level is engagement. Did they consume the content? And the third level is action. Did they actually take the next step? For content marketers, these are the metrics that you can track beyond just basic page views that will help you understand your audience. In this presentation, I'm sticking with metrics that you already have in GA4, so you don't need to start using Google Tag Manager or go ahead and start learning some code to get useful information. Instead, I wanted to focus on the basic GA4 metrics that are already built in, so you can just start using this right away. Of course, if you have the ability to add on Google Tag Manager and do some advanced recording, great. I'm going to have a link at the end to some resources that can help you enhance this, but right now let's just focus on what we already have in GA4. If you try to find an average engagement time metric in GA4, there isn't one. It's not one of those metrics that made it over from Universal Analytics. We do have average engagement time per session. That's overall for the whole session, but there isn't something for a page specifically. So instead, what we're going to do, we're going to go into the admin, we're going to click on custom definitions, we're going to click on custom metrics, and then we're going to create this metric that you see right here as a custom calculated metric. Then you can add this new metric to any report at all just by customizing it. And here's an example of what it looks like in a report, where I'm looking at the channels that are bringing people to our website, and I'm seeing what brings visitors who hang around the absolute longest. Looking at this report, I can see that organic search is pretty good, and email is also pretty good. Of course, people are on our mailing list. I should hope they're going to hang around a lot. But certainly this can tell you if your emails, for example, are actually resonating with your visitors. You might also be wondering about this metric here, average engagement time per active user. Engagement time is how long your website was their active tab, as in when they were actually looking at their screen on average. So this to me also says that we have lots of users who keep our tabs open for a very long time, which I'm honestly not mad at because that says that they're finding our content helpful and they're keeping it around for reference later. I'm okay with people keeping our website open in tabs for a long time. Just shows we're being helpful. There's also a scrolled users metric. Now, this is a metric that's available in default GA4 reports, but it isn't necessarily something you'd run across unless you were, like me, going through the list of all the metrics available in GA4 and seeing what was useful. So this is only at a user level, though. It's not a page level. So a user can become scrolled or not scrolled, but again, that's at that user distinct level. However, again, you can create a calculated metric and you can divide the number of scrolled users by the number of users, and then you can see how engaged each channel actually is. There's more ways to measure scroll depth, but again, I'm trying to stick with metrics that are already built into GA4 to make your life a bit easier. Now, let's talk about new users versus returning users. This is a really confusing metric for a lot of people. In GA4, a user is really just a device, unless you're tracking people who are logged into your website, assuming you have a login, not every site does, and you have to be reporting that data specifically off to GA4. You'd likely know if you were. If you don't know, you're probably not. Most of the time, that just isn't the case, so a user is just a device, which means that, for example, if I visit your website on my laptop computer and then on my mobile phone, I would show up as 2 users, even though I am the same person, of course. Now let's remember that if a user is a device, a new user would only be a device that didn't already have a GA4 cookie from your website, which means that maybe this is the first time I was on your website with a new laptop, or my phone versus my desktop computer. Or if your visitors use Safari or Firefox, these browsers delete GA4 cookies after 7 days, which means that every 8 days someone is a brand new user, even though maybe they visit your website on a really regular basis. And if you go into the tech details report, you can look at the browsers that people are using. Now, for our site, we have a really low percentage of Safari users because of the market that our website serves. Some of our clients have up to 50, sometimes 60% Safari users. And for us, there's about half as many proportional users for Safari than there's for Chrome, so clearly that's the impact of cookies being removed. If you check your own details in your tech devices report, I think you'll probably see similar patterns and numbers showing up. And last, I'd like you to consider what can make a session a quality session. If you had one single metric to consider, what would that be? I would say it's probably a combination of a full page view plus a certain length of time, and then maybe them completing an action such as joining your newsletter. At this point, we aren't necessarily looking at that final conversion action such as a sale or a form fill, but more that first touch, yes, I'm hitting the right people, I've got the right audience coming to my website, I'm on the right path kind of metric. If you're tracking all of those things, you can create an event in GA4 when all of those conditions are met by a user. And to do that, we'll create an audience. The audience functionality in GA4 is really overlooked, honestly. This is where you can group people together based on all kinds of things. For example, people who are interested in specific topics on your website, subscribers, non-subscribers, people from specific geographic locations. The list is really only limited by the data in GA4 and your imagination. At minimum, I typically make audiences based on how people first got to your website, and then see how they engage with your website over the long term. If you're tracking your ad campaigns, for example, you can see if the people who visited a specific ad campaign are in it for the long haul. Taking this idea of grouping people together based on behaviors, I've created an audience based on someone scrolling 90% of the way down any page at all, with a session duration of 2 minutes or longer, and they submitted our newsletter form. If all of these factors were true, I have then added a trigger to this audience, which means that when someone joins this audience because they completed these actions, then a trigger will happen, which will then record an event. And that event will be called quality_session. Then you can look at how many times this new event was recorded based on your combination of factors that you want your users to complete, and also see what channels might have brought people who have the highest quality to your website. Is it social media? Is it organic search? Is there a specific topic they like? Maybe a specific landing page? What contributes to those extra engaged users? Obviously, you want to do more of that. Now let's move on to pattern recognition. This is spotting reader behavior signals that are going to predict trends. The trick with analytics is that your readers are already telling you what they want. They tell you every click, scroll, and session, and it's your visitors communicating their preferences to you. GA4 is already capturing a lot of this data. We just need to know how to interpret it. What channels users use to get to your website already tells you a lot about their intent. For example, organic search or topics your visitors are searching for. Direct is content worth bookmarking and sharing. Email are newsletter content that drives deeper interest. And social are stories that are resonating beyond your existing base. For example, here's a snapshot of a custom report I've created just for our site, where we're looking at landing pages only from organic search, and we have another similar report for visitors just from organic social media. I can then take this report and I can give it to an LLM. I personally use Claude the most, but any LLM really can help with this. Just pick the one you like the most. And I cut out the middle part of my conversation with them, but there was lots of interesting analysis that I was able to pull together. And it was able to tell me what kind of intent each channel user has. LLMs are great at spotting trends or patterns. They're not so great at math, but pattern recognition, that's what they're good at. And they are able to spot those patterns that our human brains can miss. And note on my prompt that I say from this data, as in don't extrapolate any other crap in here, please. Focus on the data I'm giving you only. Try not to hallucinate. Doesn't always work, but certainly helps to eliminate some of that. In that last slide, I pulled data for the last 90 days, but what I would recommend is pulling page numbers on a month-by-month basis and then looking for seasonal trends as well. Again, add those new metrics that I showed you in the earlier slides, and you'll end up getting great results by asking an LLM for analysis in addition to looking at the data yourself. These patterns can really help you with your content decisions, especially if you're looking at organic search and seeing what's popular based on search volume, not just what you're promoting at that moment in social media or your emails. There's also an exploration section in GA4 that you might not have used yet, but the path exploration is really useful. Use this drop down here where it says page path and screen class under step +1, and then use the pencil icon to filter for specific pages. In this case, I had just launched my GA4 audit course and I wanted to see where people are going after visiting that specific page. Path analysis reveals how users move through your content ecosystem. These pathways can inform your content planning and your internal linking strategy. Now we're going to turn these insights into decisions and move on to strategic intelligence, which is where you convert traffic data into that content strategy. First, we're going to connect your GA4 data to your content decisions. And I don't mean, physically connect or build a data pipeline. Just make connections between your GA4 data and your content decisions. We're going to create 4 different buckets for your content. If you have a few standout pieces with great engagement, but not a lot else in the topic by you or other competitors, that's your most important area to start. High interest and low supply. Then you're going to work through the other buckets, sorting your content as you go. I also always recommend just do some Google searches. You'll want to use incognito windows in Chrome so your past searches don't influence the results, but certainly do some Googling. And this search result is just basic links, no AI overviews or anything like that, so it's easy. Also, good job Avenue Calgary for showing up for this. But that being said, now I'm going to go over to an LLM, and I'm going to compare the data that I saw in Google, and I'm going to ask the LLM, in this case again, Claude, to tell me what it thought it found in these particular search results. And you can see, again, Avenue has come up on the list, but then it actually looked at Daily Hive as the result that had all the interesting information. So you can just ask it, why did you do that? Why did you skip past the number 1 result and instead look at the number 4 result? And when I asked it that, it told me exactly why. To the LLM, the Daily Hive site looked like it had more current data than the Avenue Calgary one did, which isn't actually true, but that's what the LLM saw. And you might think, oh, you know what, not that many people are asking LLMs for this stuff. It's fine. I don't need to change anything. But let's be honest here. People ask LLMs for all kinds of stuff, and then they actually follow through on it. And they do those things based on what LLMs will tell them. And it's only getting more popular / worse. You really do have to try this stuff in an LLM and see what comes back, and then ask it, why didn't you do this thing or why didn't you do that thing? The LLM will tell you what the issue is. Now, back to actually putting together new content. Based on the information you pulled so far, you can tell what the average engagement rate is, what the average % scrolled is, and so on. And then you can tell fairly rapidly if a new piece of content is going to meet those expectations or not at the very beginning when you publish it. For example, if you know that this is the benchmark you want to hit, that means you're going to have X number of views, X amount of scrolling, etc. within 1 week of launching the piece. If you're not hitting those benchmarks, you can adjust right away. And you can make adjustments extremely quickly based on those particular baselines. Now that you know what does better on, say, search versus social versus your newsletter, that will tell you what to promote where. Maybe those long-form pieces really thrive in email newsletters, while quick pieces work better in social media. Take that data and use it to spend your limited time wisely. And now that we've gone through these 4 areas, we have a completed content compass. We have direction, while we're still preserving your integrity when it comes to what you're creating. You're not just chasing AI link bait, you're actually creating stuff that actually resonates with your audience based on all the information that you've pulled together. So for your next 4 weeks, I've put together a little to-do list for you. In this week or next week, whatever day you're watching this, make sure to customize your GA4 reports. Start creating those audiences right away. I recommend building them immediately because audiences do not go back in the past. You can create something called a segment in GA4 explorations, which are backward looking, but they can't be used in regular GA4 reports, of course. So you really want to create those audiences right away so they can start building immediately. Then week 2, I want you to start analyzing your content resonance patterns. Go through the to-do list that I provided here, create those custom metrics, and start taking a look at what those resonant metrics are telling you. The following week, start to identify those opportunities. Go through that matrix that I created of high interest, low supply, for example, work your way through, and determine what areas exist that you can really capitalize on. And then for your last week, I want you to set benchmarks and then really start planning new content using this information. Of course, week 5, etc. You're going to be publishing this information. You'll be able to see right away if it's actually resonating with your audience. And then from there, you're going to be able to create a new way of thinking about content based on data that your visitors are already telling you. Thank you so much for watching. If you scan this QR code on your screen, you'll be able to get this deck plus some supplemental resources. I've included a whole bunch of links on where you can go further with this. And if you use Google Tag Manager, I do have a recipe to measure what's called content consumption, which is people actually viewing the content on the page. If they saw it all, if they stayed long enough to read that piece of content, which is available for Google Tag Manager. So if you are able to add that on, I do strongly recommend adding that as well into this process. And there's also an exclusive discount code for MeasureSummit attendees for discounts on my GA4 and Analytics for Agencies courses. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. I've got my contact information there. Thanks again, and let me know how this works out for you. I always love to hear from people who've watched my talks.